based on Latin America. I'm very pleased to present also my colleagues. This is a session focused on, as I said, on Latin America, and we would like to present a new opportunity to get access to Latin America, to find some licenses for Latin America. And in this regard, I would like to present maybe a new approach, which is called Alliance for Life, which is a business development platform formed by 3 Latin American companies in order to cover for the whole region and be an alternative for licenses. So with me is Ana Paula Shepard. She is from LIPS. Ana Paula, you then will present you. And also Gabriela Baeza. She's from Cano, which is a Mexican company, and me myself, which is Frank Wankel. I'm from Saval, from Chile. The 3 of us form the alliance, which I will speak about in a couple of minutes. Just to be clear, this alliance was created 3 years in 2019 by the initiative of LIPS from Brazil. They just wanted to form an alliance which would cover the whole Latin America and then be an easier option for licenses. Maybe Ana Paula, you can present yourself very shortly, and Gabriela, and I will then present the alliance.
Hello. Thank you so much for watching us today. My name is Hannah. I'm Business Development Director from LIPS Pharmaceuticals, which is one of the 3 partners that has joined in this alliance. Hello.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Gabriela. I represent Carnot. I'm the BD Corporate Manager. And glad to join Saval and LIPS to present this new alliance for the Latin American market.
The Alliance for Life partnership was built a few years ago, considering all the hurdles that we have in the Latin America market. It represents about 6% of the world pharma market, and it's a very complex region with 17 different countries, different regulations, different price realities, and etc. So we found that having a strong partner in each one of these different regions would provide more to this partnership and now to licensors that would like to gain a market share and so on in this territory than having one single company which is not strong enough in each of different regions as a licensor. So we made a very thorough process and in order to find which would be the best partners that we can find in the region with the same culture, with the same compliance, and etc. So we found Carnot in Mexico Laboratories, which is represented today by Gabi, and Saval in Chile, which is represented by Frank. So within the 3 of us, we can cover pretty much the whole region. So a summary of the capabilities of this alliance. Together, we have over 4,900 employees, over 1,150 sales reps, and total revenue is roughly $0.7 million. We have several manufacturing facilities, 6, and we can provide through these manufacturing facilities all kinds of solutions, including biotechnology manufacturing at LIPS, fermentation manufacturing also at LIPS. You can manufacture APIs, for instance. We can manufacture hormones, fine chemicals, and several finished dosage formulations such as solids, semi-solids, liquids, injectables. So as mentioned, throughout this partnership, we can cover the whole region, including the Caribbean. And the headquarters are in Mexico, Brazil, and Chile. every single one of us. These are a summary of the common areas of interest where we have been focusing our efforts for looking for partners within CNS, infectology, gastroenterology, respiratory, biosimilars, and women's health. Certainly, each and every one of us have other strengths in other therapeutic areas, such as cardiovascular and metabolic disease, dermatology, oncology, ophthalmology, pain, and pediatrics. And then depending on the interest of these other areas, we partner, we make a different kind of partnership with licensors, two companies at once or one company at once, etc. It's important to focus that we also make cross-licensing amongst ourselves. So we saw all the different opportunities that every one of us had, and then we focused a lot of also connecting our products and cross-licensing on what would be of interest for the different companies. So what's the partner model that we have? All sorts of partnering model. We're designed to bring innovation to the Latin America patients through different kinds of partnership models. We do from clinical studies whenever necessary, phase 3 clinical studies, phase 2, phase 1 clinical studies, co-development of new pharmaceutical forms, simple licensee partnerships, and etc. And as mentioned, the different teams were very strong within our capabilities of local regulatory affairs, local clinical trials requirements, local market access requirements, depending on pricing and etc. And promotion also. Each one of us is very strong within our countries, having different structures to reach KOLs, physicians, and etc. So we have an extensive license and partnering experience. I can say for LIPS, for instance, we have partners from radical innovation projects, such as, for instance, Agamine, that we discovered a new molecule and we're going through phase 1 clinical studies, through simple licensing projects, such as, for instance, Alvogen, which was recently closed several partnerships with this company. Biocon, developing projects such as Dermage and Zuti. Also, for instance, MapScience, we made a partnership with MapScience to develop new biosimilars. And by doing so, we invested in clinical trials in Brazil as well, as part of the multicentric clinical trials program. We have projects within devices and open innovation, such as, for instance, smart pills, where we have a smart device to help to increase patient compliance to medications. So by mentioning, for instance, this kind of partnerships, you can see how we are trying to bring innovation to the Latin American region throughout every one of you and the projects that you have to offer as well. Carnot also has several and a very extensive and licensing partner experience, such as Thales, Beringer, Salvat, Takeda, and Saval as well, for including also multinational companies within the territory. So this is basically what our alliance is about, and what we think is a very good solution when we cannot find one single partner that would be the best partner to cover the whole region.
One of the issues that I might add is that a part of the 3 companies, LIPS, Carnot, and Saval, there's a sponsor who's called Trifamed, which is a business development agency, and this agency is like building the bridge between the alliance, Latin America, and possible companies or licensors of interest, for example, from Europe or from Japan or from the US. And so, and TriPharmed is sponsoring us and is also doing some kind of pre-selection. So I think this alliance depends very much on this kind of sponsor and in terms of functioning. I think this is a very important issue that I would like to add.
Thank you, Anna. And from Carnot, we see the alliance as an excellent opportunity to bring innovation to the region, to help each other's and join capabilities, as Anna mentioned, in terms of the regulatory barriers that we have in the region, and also about all the clinical part that probably need to be done when we bring innovation to this part of the world. So we see that the three companies together are an excellent opportunity to build a front and a common view in the LatAm region. Thank you.
Okay. Ana Paula, maybe you can move on and start with the presentation of LIPS. We will now enter each of the companies, and we will also enter and speak a little bit of insight on the Brazilian market, of insight of Mexico. I think this will make the presentation attractive, so you will be able to learn some of the important characteristics and also entry barriers of each country. I think for people who are not very familiar with Latin America, this is a nice opportunity. So Ana Paula, if you want to move forward.
Yes, let me just share my screen. A summary on the Brazilian pharmaceutical market. We are currently the 5th largest country in population, with a GDP in 2018 of over $1.5 trillion. And it's a very dense populated market with over 600 companies. Many of them are international, holding currently roughly 38% of sales. And just for you to have an idea on the size of the country, we have roughly 400,000 physicians all over the country, and 80,000 point of sales, and over 6,000 hospitals. So it's a very big region. What happens with Brazil and most of Latin America is that most of the market is out of pocket, roughly 80%, and only roughly 25% of the population has private health insurance. The current size of the market is $23 billion. In reals, this has been increasing, but considering the new exchange rate with COVID and so, the value has decreased a little bit in dollars. So most of it is retail and prescription, okay? Roughly 40% of the market, followed by retail OTC, non-retail private, which is among the public market, then retail OTC and non-retail public. It's important to notice that the hospital market is not audited 100%. So it is probably that these numbers are higher in Brazil, much higher. When we see the reality on the market, on the public market, it is mostly reimbursed by public or private payers, which are the health insurances, and it has been an increase in government purchases, where the government has been purchasing more products with low volume and high cost. There are also a reality on technology transfers environments, PDPs, when we have partnerships with the government to provide a certain medication, for instance, and the government, and then we are obliged also to perform a tech transfer to a public laboratory that will manufacture this product in the future. And we gain a percentage of the market share as a downsize. When it comes to the private market, which is pharmacies and wholesalers, basically, it's largely out of pocket, as mentioned. It is different from Europe and the US when we have a reimbursement. Here in Brazil, we do not. And there is also a very strict price control by CMED, which is our pricing agency. So it's similar in this case to Europe, where you have a price control environment. We cannot apply the price that we would like to. It goes by assessment by CMED. So this takes to limited prices on product with incremental innovation. And this limits innovation in the country, mainly when it comes to new pharmaceutical forms, new concentrations, and so of molecules that are already available in the Brazilian market. When it comes to new molecules, then it depends a lot on the pricing of these molecules in Europe or the US, but CMED also takes into consideration which will be the gold standard, or at least the comparison of this new molecule. For instance, if it has performed a non-inferiority clinical trial against the X molecule, then CMED also may take into consideration the price of this X molecule. So it's very difficult for us to have very good prices in Brazil. This being said, also the growth of the market is driven by price-sensitive emerging middle class, because it is out of pocket, and the generics are gaining share. There's a fierce competition in distribution and commercial perspective in Brazil, and also Farmácia Popular provided volume boost, which is also a program from the government to provide for the population on old medications a very cheap price through Farmácia Popular, with partnerships and with some pharmaceutical companies. So a very brief overview on ANVISA. Which is our regulatory agency, it has its own regulatory guidelines based on EMA, FDA, and Health Canada mainly. So something new is that ANVISA was recently accepted by PICS. So now we can accept the GMP that was already approved by the PICS, from the PICS members, from API and finished dose formulation manufacturing facilities, which is very good, because until, I don't know, recently last year, we had inspections from ANVISA, not only for the finished dose formulations manufacturing facilities, but also for the API. Something also peculiar for Brazil is that the stability studies required and mandatory are Zone 4B, which is similar to Southeast Asia. Okay, and in case we do not have Zone 4B for medicinal products, depending on the product, it will be refrigerated by label indication. Okay, regarding the clinical dossier that needs to be submitted to ANVISA, with new molecules, for instance, ANVISA requires a full clinical dossier. It has to be performed with Caucasian patients for new chemical entities. Okay, so whenever we have partners from Asia, for instance, and it has Asian population, we need to perform either an arm of the clinical trial with Caucasian population, or prove to ANVISA why this product does not have interference, racial interference, interracial interference. There are some programs now that help us with this, but they're used mainly in the FDA, and some programs are being used in Europe, but not yet. ANVISA has not yet accepted, as far as I'm concerned, any rationale made based on these programs, these softwares, I mean. So depending also on the project, if it is an innovative project, for instance, such as new concentrations, very different pharmaceutical forms that change the pharmacokinetics of the product and so on, biological and biosimilars, we also need a clinical dossier, maybe a reduced clinical dossier with only phase 3 and some preliminary studies in PK and so, but nevertheless, we need to present it to ANVISA. Otherwise, when it comes to branded generics, we can present bioequivalence studies. Okay, for branded generics or simple generics. These bioequivalence studies can be performed, for instance, in India. It does not need to be performed with Brazilian population. However, it needs to be performed in an ANVISA certified center, okay? And it has to be performed versus the local reference product, the product that was actually purchased in Brazil, because we need to prove to ANVISA that this is the dossier of the product of the dossier that was approved in Brazil with the quality assess and etc. Because sometimes there are differences from dossiers from submission from country to country. In case, sometimes we can achieve a waiver, a bio-waiver, but it's quite difficult for this to be achieved. And when it comes, for instance, for food supplements, there's a list from ANVISA with pre-approved ingredients, such as pre-approved probiotic strains. This list also mentions concentration limits for food supplements and etc. New active ingredients should provide clinical studies as well to be included. Clinical studies in healthy population and much simpler clinical studies. But nevertheless, we need to provide ANVISA with the clinical studies, with stability studies that are different from medicinal products. There's no need for zone 4B, only for room temperature stability studies. Nevertheless, it's important from a marketing perspective to have zone 4B in the case of food supplements. Cosmetics is very similar as well. It's a simpler way, but we also need to provide ANVISA with some studies on skin sensitivity and so on. And a little bit of lips, I'm trying to rush, so it does not take much time. We are a family-owned company with 61 years. It's 100% Brazilian, private equity. And throughout the years, we have been growing with currently over $300 million as net revenue. Most of it on the B2C franchise, which is basically all that goes to pharmacy, wholesalers, and etc. B2B would be the hospital or franchise. Okay. And when it comes to franchises that we're present in, we have currently over 90 products and over 200 pharmaceutical forms within gynecology, dermatology, cardiometabolic, respiratory, CNS, and in B2B, transplants, hematology, rheumatology, and oncology. Okay, we're among the top companies in gynecology. We have left Bayer behind, but of course, Bayer has not invested much in this in gynecology for a while. CNS, we're among the top companies in Brazil as well. Hematology, rheumatology as well. So it changes from franchise to franchise. Considering our manufacturing capabilities, we can manufacture from APIs. We currently manufacture many of the APIs that we required, from hormonal products to some oncological products as well. We manufacture most of our products in finished formulations, from semi-solids, solids, liquids, and injectables. And we also are very proud to say that we have a monoclonal antibodies manufacturing facility. This was actually a very strong technological leap for Brazil. We first launched Zidora, which is trastuzumab, is the very first oncologic biosimilar approved in Brazil. And it was very interesting for us because we performed actually the clinical trials for this antibody for phase 3 clinical trials. And there was a hurdle for us to have patients included in our studies because physicians were concerned about the efficacy of the product. So we had a very strong effort from our marketing team and medical team into improving medical awareness on the importance and safety and efficacy of biosimilars. So we started to include patients to perform our studies, and then this marketing job was so well done, and we have a very strong market recognition that market Zedora achieved over 30% market share within the first year of launch. So shows how important it is for us to bring innovations to the country, and the need for increased medical awareness and concept of these innovations that we bring to the country. And currently we are proud to say also that we manufacture Evaxia, which is rituximab, from beginning to end here in our manufacturing site in Brazil, and it's also approved and sold in Brazil. It's single-use technology from for biosimilars. And when it comes to sales force capabilities, we currently have almost 3,000 employees. Most of them are between sales force and operations. Okay, we have roughly 900 medical sales representatives and roughly 180 PO sales representatives. Okay, we currently visit over 162,000 physicians per month with different lines, and almost 19,000 point of sales. Okay, and this is more or less what we have as a medical panel among gynecologists, GPs, cardiologists, dermatologists, and so on. So you can see the size of Brazil and LIP's capabilities into making new products success here in the country. So this is pretty much about a very, very brief summary about the Brazilian market and LIP's capabilities. Now I leave it to Gabriela, I think, or Gabriela, right, Frank?
And I thank you very much for your presentation. Just before Gabi will start, there's a question from the audience, and there are a question regarding the alliance, and they're speaking about, for example, what kind of agreement do we have in terms of sharing information within us and without breaching confidentiality. So just to answer, generally what we are doing, what we are subscribing are CDAs so with each of the licensor, just to make sure that all the confidentiality issues are respected. So generally this is the first step that we're doing. If we find some interesting in with the different assets, then we subscribe these CDAs and then move forward. It's just with other business development deals. Okay, so Gabi, if you can move forward with Mexico.
Sure, thank you, Frank. Hello, everyone again. I will talk about the Mexican market and a quick overview of Carnot. So Mexico is the 10th largest economy in the world with a GDP of $1.3 trillion. It has a population of 127 million, and there's a health coverage of the 78% of the population. 50% of the population has a middle income structure, but still 25% of the population has a low income segment. The total Mexican pharmaceutical value is $18.5 billion. 18% corresponds to the public market, 56% corresponds to the private market, and 26% to the consumer. But the private market and the consumer market, just as probably in Brazil, are out-of-pocket markets. So 80% of the market is out of pocket. If we look into the private pharma market, where there's around 300 pharma companies in Mexico, this market grows 7% last year in units, but it was a flat market in terms of values. If you see here, well, the total value of the private markets is $8.8 billion and 1.1 billion units. And there's a segment of generics that is still quite low in terms of values, is almost 25% in terms of units, growing really fast. There's around 34,000 pharmacies in Mexico. 54% of them are national chains, and the other ones are independent pharmacies, pharmacies in the retailers, and regional chains. If we just look a little bit of the regulatory requirements in Mexico, well, Mexico recognized GMPs for APIs and finished products for highly regulated markets. It also accepts stability zone 2 for A and for B and requires batch tracking. If a new molecule wants to be registered in Mexico, well, the studies are valid if they come from the approved countries and Caucasian population. If it's not the case, then some studies are need to perform locally. If there's a register of generics, well, every generic in Mexico needs to perform a local BE study. Then a little bit about Carnot. We are a company of more than 1,000 employees, and we have a sales team of 600 reps. Our total revenue is $120 million. We are the leading company in gastro, and we are the third company in gynecology. We have 3 manufacturing sites in Mexico and Brazil, and we produce all kinds of solutions, solids and semi-solids. We have our own R&D facility called Cafet, where we develop products in our main therapeutic areas and also based in our technology developments. Our headquarters is based in Mexico, and we have our own affiliates in Colombia, Peru, Argentina, and Brazil. But we commercialize products in the rest of the LatAm region through distributors. This is our current therapeutic areas: women health, gastroenterology, respiratory, pediatrics, dermatology, and CNS. Well, and this is just a quick look into the Mexican market, and what Carnot brings to the Alliance is the opportunity to be in the second largest market in the region, which is Mexico, and build conjointly a strategy for the full LatAm region. Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
I will present now very short the issue of Chile, Sawal. Just give me one moment. So you heard about Brazil, you heard about Mexico, which are the biggest markets. So I will speak about the smaller market, the smaller countries, with the exception of with Chile, focusing on Chile. And what you see is very similar in terms of Brazil, Mexico. These are out of the market, out of the pocket markets. It's and you have, for example, 80% of the system of the public health system is public, and only 17% is private, with private insurance companies. If you're looking into the pharmaceutical market, then you will see that the total size is around about $2.5 billion, and 60% is from the private market. Once again, is out of the pocket, and 40% is public. And what you can see in the last years that due to some reimbursement schemes for catastrophic diseases, these public areas growing very fast with the innovations of biosimilars, with the innovation of biologic products. So I think in the future we will see another proportion between public and private healthcare. Clearly there's a trend towards public healthcare, very similar to Europe. If you're looking into the regulatory framework, then you will see that the same as in Mexico and in Brazil, bioequivalence studies will be a must, will be mandatory. Thus, within 2 years, nearly all of the products, or not all of the new products, have to be with bioequivalence studies. There's also a regulation for biosimilars in place since 3 years. This is very similar to the EMA regulation. So if you want to launch biosimilars in Chile, at least you will need biosimilars from high vigilated countries like the US or like EMA. And patent is very important for Chile. So, for example, if you are going, if you want to launch innovative products, novel products, then probably Chile is a good place, but because patents are well protected. Retail market is formed by local and formal local companies. They are in the top 5. I would skip and go into the entry barriers. As I told, the technical quality of the dossier is relevant. It has to be bioequivalence studies, and there are some fast track options, for example, for products that are coming from the EMA or from the US or from the PICS countries. And on the other hand, you have high concentration on the distribution channel. 90% is concentrated only in 3 private channels. So you have a very high concentration. So therefore, you will need a partner that is used to struggle with this constitution. For example, it helps if the local partner that you were looking for has good position in the market, has a high market share, because then you are able to defend against the channels. And again, as Lips and as Cano, Saval is a family-owned company. I think this is very important for the alliance. We are sharing some common values. I think it's very important for the common work in the alliance. And for example, Saval has been founded 80 years ago, and we are a branded generics company. But in the last years, we are very strong in the retail area, but now we are entering also the hospital range area because reimbursement is getting stronger and stronger, and therefore biologic and biosimilars are getting more and more important. Just for the audience, if you have any questions on Brazil or Mexico or Latin America or on the alliance, just use the question and answer, and then we will be delighted at the last 15 minutes of the session to trying to give some answer. Okay.
So I have this question that I didn't see when I was presenting about how are doctors reacting to biosimilars in Brazil. What I can say is that at the beginning, as mentioned, it was very difficult for us to recruit patients for our clinical trials because they were concerned with biosimilars, and they had this prejudice against biosimilars made a lot by the originators and the lack of knowledge. So what happened is that through this very good medical work made by our marketing team, we managed to change this view of physicians. And currently we can see that this has happened throughout the market. We can see that physicians are reacting very well to biosimilars in Brazil, and they are gaining very big market shares. What is important, however, to mention is that the market on biosimilars in Brazil is quite different, because it is not only the issue on biosimilars, it's also a price market, because the reimbursement is made by the private health insurance, which works by fee for service, okay, or it is a public purchase by the government through tender and etc. So this is basically how it happens also in Brazil, but physicians can also are receiving very well the new products. Frank.
Gabriela, maybe you can comment also on this topic of biosimilars and for the Mexican market. I think this is a very interesting topic.
Sure, Frank. Well, yes, in Mexico, probably it's a little bit similar as Brazil. The regulation has just recently been clear for registered biosimilars in Mexico, but in the past it was not even clear how to register these type of products in Mexico. So right now there's only a few biosimilars approved, mostly are for the public sector. There's still not big brands of biosimilars in the private market. But I think it's a great step that in the public sector there's start to using biosimilars.
Yeah, and maybe in terms of Chile and other countries, it's pretty similar. So I think biosimilars are now working, let's say, over 3 years now. I'm speaking about biosimilars, which of high vigilant countries, and they are more successful in the public area than the private area. And physicians are still important, but it depends also on the specialties. For example, for rheumatologists, there had been more resistance to use biosimilars than, for example, other specialties like hematologists or oncologists. But I think this was during the first years. Now it's getting more and more familiar, and we see a very strong pickup of biosimilars in the country. So it's really, really interesting.
Just to add, I think this is all based on the quality of the biosimilars that are reaching the market. As if it has a very strong clinical trials, there's evidence to show to physicians that the product is good. And as mentioned, knowledge, increased awareness, and so on. This provides confidence, and this is basically it.
Okay, just feel free to ask further questions from the audience. Maybe in the meantime, a question from my side once again regarding the alliance, and maybe once again resuming. What would be the benefits, for example, for a licensor who is trying to get into Latin America to work for Alliance for Life? What would be the specific benefits compared to a more step-by-step approach with country by country? Maybe Anna, you can respond, and then Gabriela.
Okay, so the alliance, through the alliance, we have been pre-ferment. We have been able to access several new opportunities of new molecules, very innovative products. However, we see several hurdles regarding the region. As mentioned, we are out of pocket, and we have to take into consideration that we are Latin America, or not the US or Europe, which are mostly most of the licensors and developers of new products. So we have to clarify what is our reality. And also there's an exchange rate hurdle, which is difficult. We need to show that there is the exchange hurdle that has been impacting our medications. We also have the problem with the prices of the product. Sometimes we cannot practice the same price that we have in the US because, for instance, there's either no market to access by having very high prices medications, or this price, for instance, wouldn't be approved in Brazil in this case by CMED. I don't know if Frank or Gabriela would like to add or comment anything else.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Anna. Yes, well, for us has been, well, normally now the innovative products are also made by small, medium companies, and they expect to have a common partner for Europe, a common partner for the US. And when they see LatAm, they see so many different regulations, different commercial strategies. And so I think building the alliance is a way that they have a front common strategy for the region. And we try to build business case in a common way, so they they have this same a common platform to come to the LatAm region.
The same hurdles. We make it unified.
Yeah. And maybe another question, what had been the learnings of the Alliance? I think we now 2 years now on the market working together. What do you think had been the learnings or the learning effects that we had in this time?
Good question, Frank. I think that from our part, we have been testing the partnership, which has been going very well. So we put into the test what we had as a theory, that we were very aligned regarding compliance and culturally wise. We find it glad to see that we're working very well as a team and making several cross-licensing projects and so on. What we have been having as a learning process is sometimes how to negotiate with some partners because of expectations. We have to put expectations of our partners more in line with what actually is Latin America and how we can overcome the limitations. So I would say that from my part, this is a little bit of the learning that we had during this last negotiations, I would say.
Yeah, and Gabi, from your side, you want to add something else?
Sure. Well, yes, I think we are also in the learning process. I think we have to work better in the way that we first discuss internally a proposal and then build unique strategy for the LatAm and then present it to the partners. I think we are just in that process of develop that process in the 3 companies.
Yeah, and maybe from my side, I would also once again add the importance to have some kind of agency or some kind of sponsor who coordinates the efforts and who do some kind of pre-selection of the assets and then before presenting it to us, and also accompany the whole process in terms of looking to the deadlines, moving forward. Discipline the Alliance is very important to have someone on board who really coordinates, and I think in this regard for other people who would like to build up an alliance, it's very important to get this coordination. Okay, there's a question from the audience, and it has to do with the GMP audits from ANVISA or Cofebris. As of today, how long does it take to get this audit, and especially for companies that come from outside of the reference countries, and if this process has been affected by COVID. So since this is a question of GMP audit from ANVISA, maybe Ana Paula and Gabriela, you can answer directly.
Okay, regarding Brazil and ANVISA, just to clarify, we are now a new member of the PICS. So all countries among the PICS, which I believe are 70 something, we no longer require a site inspection, because if this company from the PICS member country was already inspected by EMA or FDA or something, ANVISA considers it done, and we no longer need to go. Nevertheless, our time frame for inspection, if I'm not mistaken, is between 1 year, more or less. What we usually do as a strategy, because it shows and it's public information, when the inspection was performed, is we submit the dossier to ANVISA, and then roughly 6 months afterwards, we request the site inspection. So the approval would come just before the approval, the site inspection approval, the GMP would come just before the dossier approval, and it wouldn't raise any attention from competitors. much ahead of time. What else? And regarding COVID, this was very, very influenced by COVID because there were no trips and etc. This is why I think that maybe the PICS membership allowance for Brazil was expedited because we were on the PICS line for, I think, 5 years now. And just now we achieved the approval. So.
Okay, Gabriela?
Yeah, regarding Mexico, well, yes, before COVID, it took around 6 months to request a site visit from COFEPRIS. Right now, everything is on hold, so there's no visits. COFEPRIS is just working in additional ways to approve those GMPs. For some cases, they've been adding more information, and before they're saying that before the regulatory approval is ready, they will do the visit. For some other countries, Mexico is reviewing to be included and include more countries in terms of the approved GMPs. But at the end, we see post-COVID that still some visit will be required, and that between 6 months to 1 year may take this process.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any further questions maybe on Latin America, on specific market that that the audience has? So just let me know, and we will be eager to answer them. Maybe if you're looking into some trends within Latin America, do you see any trends, Ana Paula or Gabriela, within Latin America, for example? I see there's a trend towards the bioequivalence. So clearly the level of the dossier will improve in all countries. And I also see a trend towards maybe further price regulations. We don't know. Everybody is speaking about prices. It's a very sensitive issue. Do you see any trends? Maybe Gabriela first within Mexico.
Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, Mexico still has not 100% health coverage. So yes, there's a lot of pressure in how the government is going to reach that coverage. One is price. The other one is bringing products from other countries that normally was difficult to register in Mexico, such as India, China, and Asia in general. So yes, that's a trend in Mexico. This government wants to reach the 100% coverage. They also thinking about international purchase, which is not a defined process yet. It's just this year beginning. But it's a way that Mexico will look into different providers, not only locally, but also internationally to reach that coverage. In the private segment, well, we see that the trends are moving to the elderly ages of population, because Mexico is facing this change in terms of population. So we see this type of categories growing. Of course, Mexico in terms of also diabetes and this kind of diseases is a health problem in Mexico. So there is a trend there, and there's also government putting money to do different health strategies to prevent this kind of problems in Mexico population.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're coming now to the end of our session on Latin America. It was a pleasure to present, on the one hand, a little bit of insight of Latin America, from one of the major markets like Brazil, Mexico, and a smaller one like from Chile. And it also was a pleasure to present this alliance, which is a new form of working business development and bring innovation to Latin America. And I hope we will get into contact with a lot of people from the audience, from other companies, from other regions, in order to do so and make innovation grow within Latin America. So thank you very much for your attendance, and I hope we will stay in touch somehow.